Hi, Noel.
Hi, Nikki.
How's it going?
It's going okay so
Good,
far.
good, good. Well, I'm super familiar with who you are and what you do and the amazingness that you've achieved on your journey. But for everybody who is new to Noel, who is new to Bounce Black Pod, could you tell us who is Noel Hedges?
Who is Noel Hedges? Yeah, I'm Noel Hedges, and amongst other things, I'm the EVP of Acquisitions at Entertainment One, the film and TV studio. And so that means basically I talk to producers, writers, creators about investing in their TV series and films.
Amazing, super fancy sounding. So tell us, what's your story? What's your journey been like to get to where you are today?
Um, it's an interesting one thinking about a question like that, a journey, because it's only when you, for me, it feels like it's only when you get to my age that you actually start thinking about where you've come, and it's something that I've recently turning 50 like tomorrow or Friday or something.
Oh my gosh.
And it does make you think about a journey, and it does make you think about where you've come from. And I'm from the northwest of England, Liverpool. My family have absolutely nothing to do with media or TV, but I was always interested in film and TV, and I wanted to work in film primarily. But I think one of the things I faced was wanting to, how do you get into film in an area, coming from an area which sort of has so many barriers, which is very relevant for actually the Creative Mentoring Network and what they were trying to do with Soho House. But like, how do I get into the film and TV business that's closed off for anyone who's not outside of London, who can afford to be work free of charge, basically. So I just moved down to London and went to university in London and did internships and things like that. That ultimately got me a job at Granada TV in Manchester as like a runner, and then it went on from there. I think the key thing for me is I never wanted to make TV. I've always had a creative sensibility, but I never wanted to get my hands dirty and like staying up 24 hours a day making something. I wanted to deal with the projects and the films and the TVs after they had been finished, which led me to distribution. So I pretty much my entire career, from the BBC through to ITV, then at Shine, and now at E1, has been in the world of the buying and selling of finished TV and film. So there is a market for that, and that's what I've done. So I used to sell around the world, to all territories, and I invest in TV shows now for people to sell. So yeah, the journey has been consistently within film and TV, which, from a broader, taking a step back, you sort of think, actually, that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I've ended up doing. And I haven't had any sort of, there's been no obvious leg up for me to do that. I just set out to do it. I'm sure there are some leg ups that I've had, compared to others, but I could easily have stayed in Liverpool and, done something else, I suppose, if I'd wanted to stay at home. But I think something in me was driven to get to London. So.
Well, I'm definitely glad you came to London and I've been able to meet you as a result. And I think that points to the next question I want to ask, which is, for everyone listening, I think it would be helpful to talk about how we know each other. And so you kind of touched on it already through the Creative Mentor Network, which is a charity that helps try to increase diversity and representation in creative industries. And they do this primarily through mentoring programs in collaboration and partnership with various companies, including Amazon, Sony, and many other companies, including Soho House, which is the scheme that we are on. And so I would love for you to talk about your own personal motivations for joining the Creative Mentor Network as a mentor.
All right, I'm not going to lie and say it's purely altruistic. There is a large part of it that is about wanting to help others, and I think I can be of help to people, but quite honestly, a large part of what drove me to apply to become a mentor was, I'm at a stage now where I was thinking, like, where are the new challenges in my professional life? There must be more to working than just working. And I saw this come up, and actually I thought this is going to be a really interesting string to my bow, having never been a mentor before. Just going through that process, I think it utilizes so many skills that are really important in life in terms of listening and advising and organizing. So yeah, there is, it's not selfish, but there is a selfish element to it that I thought, this is going to be really good for me. And then there is that part that is actually I'm really interested in other people. I'm really interested in finding out what other people are doing. And I get really motivated when you meet people who are self-starting, and if you can give them just like an ounce of help, then that makes you feel really good. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of what, and then it's attached to Soho House, so it sounds kind of cool as well.
It definitely sounds cool. Perfect. So I think it would be great if you could now talk about what it was actually like once you've made it through the doors, so to speak, of the program. You've started, you've had the little training that they gave you, and also they did parallel training for mentees as well in terms of expectations and how to structure things. So with that said, I would love to know, what was your first impression of me when you met me compared to now, I guess?
All right. Well, we met very, very briefly, because I remember we were introduced to each other at the end of my 2-hour training session, I suppose, introduction session, and I couldn't stay very long. So it was only really on the first session that I got to know you, and I thought you were obviously in that first moment at White City House where we met. I thought, you seemed very nice, sort of like, why wouldn't you be? And you were telling me a bit about what you're doing. I thought, oh wow, that's really interesting. I didn't expect to be getting someone who wants to work in law. I didn't expect to I thought I'd be getting a, Instagram influencer or something, or I don't know, something like that. But you immediately, I was like, oh, this person is as a professional, clearly has the aptitude of professionalism in running through them. So that was really interesting. And then when we met and you started telling me about everything you do, both, what you're trying to achieve professionally, what you're trying to achieve sort of entrepreneurially through Bounce Black, all the committees, all the articles you've written. Quite frankly, what I thought of you, I thought, why the hell are you on a mentoring scheme? Because it doesn't sound like you need much mentoring, to be brutally honest. And I was starting to think, I don't know what I can offer you, because you're clearly motivated, you're clearly socially engaged and committed to your various causes, and bright and intelligent and energetic, etc., etc., etc. So what I thought was, this is going to be interesting. Can I help? That's what I thought. And then ultimately, as we spoke about what's going on in your life, there are 3 strands to your life, that maybe more than 3, but there are clear divisions that we could tell were going on in your life. I think what I felt like, actually I can offer you something, just in maybe using that hour as a pause to reflect on what is important to you, to how you're going to achieve the things, particularly in the relation to Bounce Black and the sort of the creative side, how you're going to achieve those elements. So I think that what I thought was, you're very smart, you're very intelligent, but you've got a lot going on in your life, and how do we get through that? It's just, that's simply put.
Amazing. And I think similar for me, I also had a wow moment when I first met you, and I remember speaking to my fellow mentees on the program when we were asking each other about who we've been paired with and what do they do. We all had the same reaction when I mentioned your title, EVP, because it just sounds like such a big deal for those of us maybe who haven't had access to people of your role, of your stature and your reputation. And yeah, so we were all just very starstruck, to be honest.
That's so interesting to me. And it just goes to show what assumptions we make, you know, and I think that's one thing that this whole process has alerted me to, is the assumptions we do make on like how easy it is to do things, how easy, or we all know a certain way of talking, we all know a certain way of, like with me, like I don't know anything particularly about the, you know, social media. I don't use it that often, and you know, I just the assumption from younger people, let's say, that I do, you know, and a way of certain apps and all that. There's just so many assumptions on both sides, and my title, I don't even think about my title. I've never thought that it might come across as highfalutin or kind of necessarily impressive. Because to me, I look at that EVP title and I always go, all right, what sort of company you work? How big's the company really? Like, how, you know, sort of, maybe that's just old age cynicism, but thank you. On not to be too modest, yeah, it depicts a certain sort of life experience, career experience, you know, and so I'm not going to sort of knock myself, you know. I have got to this point, and I think that's going to be useful to people, which is why I'm on this program. But yeah, that's it. I find it quite funny. It's like, I'm like, right, okay.
Yeah, and I just think I love that I can just have this kind of conversation with you now, because again, I started out from that perspective of, whoa, these 3 letters in front of your name is a big deal. And yeah, there's an element of nervousness and I don't know if imposter syndrome is the right word, but yeah, just this sense of, oh my goodness, just, yeah, it felt a little bit intimidating, but also just the reason I'm here is to challenge myself and to stretch myself. So I was also excited to work with a senior leader like yourself, just because I'm also very, very inspired by just the concept of leadership in general. And I think through our sessions together, I've definitely seen myself become a lot more confident, because people of your position previously would be inaccessible to people like myself. And so being able to have built and formed this relationship with you has definitely helped me feel more confident in how I show up in the world and how I interact with people. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are. Like, we're just people.
I totally agree with you, and I think that's really interesting what you say. I'm really interested in leadership as well, and it's something that I find fascinating. And I don't lead a massive team, if I'm honest, you know, sort of. But I do believe, you know, to bang my own drum, I do believe I've got like innate leadership skills too, of empathy and understanding, and also sort of a certain understanding the way the world works, and the way the world works well, and the way the world sometimes corporately as well doesn't work well. So I like to, you know, I understand, like, we are human. I think that's exactly right what you said. It's like, and actually I'm a big believer when it comes to, in the corporate world or the world of business or whatever you want to call it, just bringing the human level back, because I think people get lost in the jargon and people get lost in the hierarchy, and people get lost in, actually, you may be an EVP, you may be an SVP, but it doesn't matter. In the end, you should just be talking to people one-on-one and Absolutely. In the same way. And I'm not a hierarchical person, which is why I laugh when you were shocked at my, or surprised, or whatever it was, impressed by my title, because I'm like, Christ, it means nothing to me. Sort of, it's just like, it's just a job, you know what I mean? It's just your job, you know?
Amazing. And so I guess one thing that I would love for you to share is, having been through this experience now, in light of what you initially set out to achieve, what would you say now, what would you say mentorship means to you now, and how have you benefited from mentoring yourself?
Mentor, it's been really interesting experience for me, this. I think it has. I've calmed down a lot from when I started, and I think, like you, when I first started I was nervous. I was really unsure what I was going to offer. How do I do it? I was looking at those manuals that we got given, thinking, I've got to fill in these forms and these tables, and we've got to have goals every week, and actually we didn't, but they were very useful as a start. And I calmed down a lot and just thought, actually, this is about listening. This is about understanding you as a mentee, understanding what you're trying to achieve. It's not about, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a guru, but you're kind of all of those things, but in a very, very kind of sort of abstract way. But for that hour or whatever it is you meet, you're just there to listen, and it's about the mentee, and it's about, well, what do you want to do? And I just think it's allowed me to learn how to listen more, and how to kind of sort of, just like hopefully just like hone what's important to people, allow people to sort of say, like, think about, right, hang on a minute, what is the most important thing you're trying to achieve right now? And I think it's given me a certain motivation to do more, to be honest. Seeing what you do, and seeing what, like, extracurricular things, let's call it, that you're doing, it really has motivated me to do something, sort of to do more, whether it's networking or whether it's, more mentoring or some sort of, beyond work function. You get very stuck in a job. Once you've been doing it for a very long time, you get stuck in it, and you think, and when you're not working, you think, all I want to do is sit and watch TV, or sit and you'll go out. And actually doing something else that's not your job and isn't just sitting watching TV, is charity work or mentoring, or is incredibly distracting and diverting and interesting, just like mentally really interesting, and doesn't feel like work. And I think that's maybe one of the things. It's like, it's nice to feel that something isn't work, but still is useful. And I like sitting doing nothing, but I do. I love sitting doing nothing most of the time, but it can be frustrating. It's nice to also think, actually, this is really interesting, and it's got nothing to do with somebody making money, and it's like nothing to do with deadlines, and it's so I think it's motivation. What I've got out of it is a huge sense of motivation of what's possible, and personally, from a skills point of view, I think I've got much more of like organising, like thinking and listening, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I would agree with those things. I definitely appreciated the tone that you set from the first proper session that we had together. I was definitely taken aback by your approach in terms of sending me some questions to think through in advance that were about who I am as a person. Because I came in thinking, I'm following this manual, I've got to set some goals, we're going to break it down into SMART goals, I forget what the acronym stands for sometimes.
But there's all those GROW and all that.
Yeah, just those typical models of mentoring, and very, very outcome focused. But what I've appreciated about our sessions is that we've focused more on process. Like, you really took the time to get to know who I am as an individual. You were very, very keen on understanding my story and where I've come from and how I got to where I am today. And that definitely, I think, made me feel comfortable and excited. And I think that was where I started to look beyond your title, so to speak, because you looked beyond what I am trying to achieve. You looked beyond the formal stuff, the formalities, and you were trying to focus on me as a person. And I think that made me feel safe. And when I'm safe, I flourish. And I think that's definitely been my experience over our sessions together. So
that's really good to hear. I think that's really, it is, it's innate, isn't it, to sort of say, if you want to help someone, you've got to really know them. And I did spend a lot of time getting to know what's going on in your life, and I think our sessions would have been different types of sessions if you'd been a different type of person, and you've got a lot going on in your life. You're young and you're trying to achieve certain things. So you're in a great space in terms of, right, there's so many ideas and so many ambitions and how do I pull that together so that I can do this, but methodically and not explode through like fatigue.
Yeah.
Whereas other people might have been slightly older, might have been, I've got my job, that's what I want to do, but I want to grow in this area and just be more like, and then that's a different conversation. But I think you've got to start with, well, who are you? What's important? And I think it's you've got to understand that background to know, okay, so this is what I'm going to be dealing with to really be able to help them. So, I enjoyed that, and it made things much easier to know to spend that time, because it kind of framed our sessions every time we met. To say, okay, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? And then it was like, okay, so this is colouring how we're going to move forward on the projects. But it's it was very, very important. But they were also just very interesting to hear, to hear about people, to hear about experience, what they're going through, and to swap notes, because that's all we're doing really, swapping notes.
Absolutely. And so, with that said, what advice would you have for those who are considering becoming mentors and those who desire a mentor?
For those becoming or want to become a mentor, I'd say absolutely do it. It's really good, but it's not. Well, I quickly learn it's not about you, the mentor. So, and it's not about what you end up with at the end of the process. I quickly learned that also. It's we talked about it earlier. It's like, this isn't The Apprentice. This isn't a competition where we have to have our cake baked at the end of it. It is, and we're going to get judged. It's actually about that journey of conversation, and it could go on forever. You know what I mean? It's not a finite thing. So don't do it for sort of like a binary process approach, and just to make yourself feel better, that aren't you great, you've given all this great advice. It's actually not about advice even, it's about direction, it's about thinking. So take the self out of it. Admittedly, I said, go back to the beginning where I said I did this for selfish reasons, but that's being honest. I quickly did realise it's not about me, and it's really sort of, so that's one thing I would say. For those wanting to be a mentee, do it. I want to be a mentee. I've never had a mentor, and although I've had people in my life who've almost kind of been mentors without officially meeting up in that way, I think everyone should have a mentor. So do it. And it doesn't matter if you've not got a project that you're desperately wanting to work on. That might be the project that you want some focus, you want inspiration, you want to understand how to move forward. But a bit of objective advice or subjective advice actually can be really useful. And so I just think it's such a great experience, and you get to meet really interesting, motivated people.
Absolutely. So I think the last question, which I think is probably my favourite question, we had a conversation at some point in the journey about how important allyship is, how important it is to connect with people who don't look like you, who don't have the same life experiences as you, because there's something to learn from everyone. And that's why we're here having this conversation, because I believe that you can offer value to the Bounce Black community and beyond. And so I would love to know what allyship means to you.
That's a really interesting question. I've never thought about it in that way, but I think it means conversation. It means communication to me. That as you say, there's so many differences between people, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's race, whether it's sort of social backgrounds, whatever. There's so many differences, but actually we're all the same, and you get that through conversation, and you find that out through communication, and you find that we're all having the same experiences, and we're all feeling the same insecurities, the same fears, the same joys. Allyship to me therefore means cutting through those, let's call them barriers. They're not all barriers, preconceptions, whatever, and understanding that actually you can sit for 15 weeks and have a conversation with someone about things that we are all going through and not be thinking about anything else other than that issue. Yeah, it's it's a really fascinating process, this whole thing, and it's really important that you're doing that. The focusing on allyship is really important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Noel, for your time as always and your insights. Love chatting with you, and definitely gonna keep the conversation going. I know the program is coming to an end, but sorry, you're stuck with me for life.
Hooray!
Yes.
Get those job applications in.
Yes.
Be on your case.
And so, just quickly, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or get in touch with you?
Oh, my social platforms are so vast. No, LinkedIn is probably the best place, to be honest, to find me. You know, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and that's the one. I am on the Soho House platform if people are members, but obviously for the network they are, but not for everybody. So yeah, I'd say LinkedIn. I'm on the other socials, but I tend not to sort of use them. But I am on LinkedIn more.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for your time.
You're welcome.
And yeah, go find you and Noel, guys. He's amazing.